This is the FunBelt Podcast, part of the Believe Network.
Hosts the Dusty Thibodeau of Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of Howlraiser, and Shane Metlin of the Daily News Record.
I think it's potentially a very good week for the SunBelt.
But I'm just kind of going off on a random rant. It's just frustrating. We're getting big time, guys. We get our own video intro for the YouTube channel that everyone should be checking out. FunBelt Podcast on YouTube. And then we're, of course, on Spotify, iTunes, no longer on Google Podcasts since it doesn't exist anymore. Guys, it got weird again in week 8 of the SunBelt Conference. Old Dominion, second win of the season in conference action. What else did you see this past week?
First of all, though, was that weird? Because, first of all, yes, SunBelt entropy is upon us. But it wasn't that weird because all of us said that was going to be a trap game, right?
Yeah, I was actually disappointed you guys agreed with me because I thought I was going to look smart by picking that one.
And then watching, I didn't get to watch much game because I was out doing some stuff, some family stuff. But I got to monitor the woe and chagrin of Bobcat fans on Twitter. Like, what is happening here? But yeah, Ricky Ronnie, I'm telling you. And, you got that, was it Colton? Oh, gosh, the quarterback, Tibbs, help me.
I forget it. At Colton, it doesn't matter. I mean, he's not Colton Browning, but we know it's Colton.
Shane, help. Who's the ODU quarterback now?
It's
Yes.
You guys got me second guessing myself. I was going to say Joseph.
Yes.
I knew it. And I was about to say, you guys got me second guessing myself. It was going to be Williams or some other first name. No. Colton Joseph. Looking good.
Yes, that's what it is. 3 rushing touchdowns, guys, against Texas State. That's all the offense that those guys need for that pretty good ODU defense to win. So that was really cool. It was kind of cool to see Ricky Ronnie get a win. I know Texas State fans are grumbling. It's a long way to go for a loss. But hey, man, that's the SunBelt. That's SunBelt entropy. You can't count on anything.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of had it circled because of that travel. I mean, I think, ODU's surprising. They may be getting it together and we'll get to it. They're playing a game this week that the winner of it has the fast lane to the East Championship. But, that trip from San Marcos to Norfolk, that's the one trip that we talk about the geographic tightness of the SunBelt. That's the one that sounds a little bit more like those nationwide conferences, the Conference USA or whatever. But that's tough for somebody to make that trip and play well enough to win.
Yeah,
but it was still even out there today that Texas State, there's interest in them going Pac-12.
Wait,
that means it's back out there again that they are having carrots potentially dangled in front of them for the Pac-12, with St. Mary's joining as a basketball-only member school is the most recent line there. But if that's the case, I mean, Texas State's essentially going to Old Dominion every week, every game.
Yeah. You know what? I don't believe a bit of that. I don't believe there is any fire to that smoke. I think that's just Texas State with the bellows saying, look at us, even though they keep losing games they shouldn't be losing. That is complete horseshit. That is not happening at all, Tibbs.
Well, are we going to get into the whole realignment discussion now?
No, God. No, let's not do that. We've got to avoid that. If anything, Tibbs, we should divert this conversation to what the hell's happening at James Madison.
Well, that's why Shane's trying to, throw the curveball there, that he doesn't want to have that discussion. But on the X, I had the great tweet. Time to blow up the floaties. Let's go for a dunk in Eagle Creek there to celebrate the win over James Madison. Shane, what the hell happened that the Eagles were able to defend their home turf against what was supposed to be the slam dunk East champion of the world?
Well, let's go back to the ULM game and how your Warhawks kind of unlocked the puzzle to JMU. Is that if you get some pressure on them, and that's the interesting thing is because ULM was bringing a lot of guys. They were blitzing all the time. They were bringing the house, and JMU's offensive line and the running backs, they just didn't do a great job picking it up. Against Georgia Southern, they were not necessarily bringing a lot of guys. They were just beating. And I think maybe people have seen that the left side of JMU's offensive line isn't particularly great right now. You can, if you disguise what you're doing a little bit, you can find some holes there and you can maybe just kind of beat them, one-on-one too. And that's been an issue for the JMU offense where it's been really inconsistent. And, when they look good, they look really good, but then when they look bad, they look terrible. And you got to wonder if the secret's out on them right now.
Yeah, with Georgia Southern, I think at the beginning of the year, we all agreed that Appalachian State, man, were we stupid, that Appalachian State was going to be the most complete team in the East. And that JMU would play a role there somewhere. And we're like, well, who's that spoiler? Who's that team that could be the sort of the fly in the ointment here? And we all agreed it was probably going to be Georgia Southern. But Georgia Southern doesn't look like the fly in the ointment right now. They look like the ointment. They look like they might be the team to beat. And Marshall may eventually do a little bit of pounding on that door too. But Tibbs, do you agree? Do you think it's the Eagles at last that they kind of finally put things together after those 6-6 seasons?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think the bigger surprise is that they're doing it without J.C. French. I thought that was going to be their guy, but they've kind of shifted gears all around it, and they've been able to also have a good defensive presence and make the big stops when needed. I mean, this is a team that's the thoroughbred of the previous seasons of Georgia Southern. They're making Irk proud. They're defending Eagle Creek. What more could you want, Jeremy?
I don't know. Maybe some EPA standards at beautiful Eagle Creek. I don't know. Maybe some testing. That could probably be something, right? J.C. French, he was the starter for that game. Tibbs. He did have three.
I try to prepare my notes, and y'all just shit all over them. So there's no telling what all's in my notes.
I thought he was trying to say that they got back to the run game, not that J.C. French didn't.
Okay, that's what you were saying, Tibbs. They got back to the run.
Sure, why not?
The historical bread and butter of the Georgia Southern Eagles. French did throw 3 interceptions. Shane, how do you collect 3 interceptions and not come away with a victory?
I don't know. I've gone back through a whole lot of years of JMU football and have yet to find a game that they were +4 in a turnover margin and lost.
Yeah, that's
well past 20 years at this point and have not found the game. That's the shocking part of it, is that even with that, they couldn't get enough points on the board to win that game.
So what is the mood among the fan base? That's a pretty finicky fan base, I guess is what I'm trying to say. What's the mood right now? Is it dismay, or is it, God, we just got to right this ship and get things going?
It's anger, I think, is probably the biggest thing. They just, because
it's anger.
I mean, to see it happen once with ULM, I think they felt like, okay, they probably figured it out. They got better, especially when they come back and have a pretty good offensive showing against Coastal. And look like maybe they figured things out, and then just completely get dominated for a good chunk of that game against Georgia Southern. I mean, it's not that everybody knew it's tough to win there, and JMU has never won at Georgia Southern, and that it wasn't going to be easy. But I don't think anybody thought that game was going to be over at halftime, like it pretty much was.
Yeah, I don't think JMU didn't score until the second half, if I recall that right. But speaking of other beatdowns, Tibbs, did you watch the Battle of the Belt, or Battle for the Belt? I guess that's probably how you say it.
I did. It was a great showing by South Alabama. The first time in 6 years that belt is back in Mobile. I had a chance to catch up with Craig Stevenson as we previewed ULM's upcoming game against South Alabama, and he said that there were a lot of players for South Alabama that were excited to see it, that they had seen it potentially like on a recruitment trip, but they had never actually got to see it or feel it, touch it, hold it. And so there was a lot of excitement in the Jaguar locker room that it was now theirs and that they would be able to experience the belt for a full year.
Yeah, that was a crazy performance by Troy. 9 points. You would think that's three field goals. No, they scored a touchdown at the end. I guess they tried to go for two, maybe, or maybe it missed the XP. I don't know. One bright spot for that Troy offense, though. Troy has been pretty miserable. They rank near the bottom in almost every metric. But man, Devontae Ross, the wide receiver for Troy, that guy already has 8 touchdowns this year. 8 touchdowns from like a team that's already played like 3 or 4 quarterbacks. That's pretty impressive, Tibbs.
Yeah, and Goose Crowder, you can't say that fast.
Goose.
Officially done for the season after sustaining his injury there at the ULM game. So he's done. I think Troy's done as well. I just don't see where Troy picks up that second win on the season. Guys, the mighty have fallen. And I say that knowing that Troy will rebuild. They'll be back. But for this year, man, it's tough to see them just down the way they are.
SunBelt entropy, man, it knows no mercy. You know, it's laid low Appalachian State. It's laid low Troy. You know, it's just one of those things where in the SunBelt, you can go through a period of dominance. You can go through a 3 to 4 year period where you are the bee's knees. And then suddenly you'll just sink like a rock. Metlin, you're new to the Sunbelt. You haven't experienced this yet, but man, you just watch. The meek inherit the earth in the Sunbelt. Those who are first will be last, and those who are last will be first. I'm getting biblical here. I'm not a very biblical person, but I'm telling you, Sunbelt entropy is real, and you have to worship it. You have to respect it.
I'm just surprised Tibbs is not giving Troy any chance against Southern Miss.
No, I'm really not. I think that Southern Miss, we haven't brought it up for the recap, but Will Hall has coached his last game there in Hattiesburg. The Hallless Eagles will head to James Madison for their homecoming game. Shane, I don't want to preview a game on this episode because we always do that later on in the week. But is it maybe the oddity that you don't bet Southern Miss this week on Bet Online when typically you fire your head coach? You're going to get that new head coach kind of bump in this game. Is Southern Miss maybe the exception this week?
Hey, before you answer that question, Shane, have you seen the Bet Online spread for that game?
Not recently.
The last number I saw was 25 points.
I'd seen that number around, yes.
So before you say bet the under on that, that's a big spread.
It is. That's a big spread. And yeah, this is a game I would lay off of if I was, a gambler who had some self-control, because, JMU's in a weird spot and you never kind of know like what that reaction is going to be like when you get that interim coach situation. And, they don't have a lot of time to switch things up, but maybe just the adrenaline of it ends up doing them some good.
Have they named an interim?
Yeah, Reed Stinger. Is he DC maybe of Southern Miss?
He was the assistant head coach, but was mainly just like a roster recruiting guy. So that also kind of think helps them out maybe a little bit, is that they're not shaking up basically what they're doing game planning wise. Like coordinators and everybody's still doing what they do, and that situation might end up helping them a little bit down the line.
But what a name, guys. Reed Stinger. Coach Reed Stinger. Coach Stinger. That's pretty good. They might win a few games based on the sheer manliness of that moniker alone. So, yeah, Arkansas State came down to Hattiesburg this week and it was homecoming for Southern Miss, which, gave all Red Wolves fans a little bit of pause. You go to a place that they're having their homecoming, they're going to have a good crowd. There's expectations to play well. Coach Hall already probably sweating bullets, already citing how many players have gotten baptized this year as a positive metric for the team, which I thought was kind of desperate. But, Will Hall, we like Will Hall. He's joined us for a couple times, Tibbs, at the SunBelt Media Days. Always very gracious with his time. Always very forthcoming. I didn't want to see him lose his job, but I certainly didn't want to see my Red Wolves, for instance, lose to Southern Miss. And, Southern Miss for a half played really hard. And then, they just kind of lost, whatever steam they had. Arkansas State revved up that running game that was promised at the beginning of the year. Jalen Rayner threw for 3 touchdowns, 3 different wide receivers. So it was a nice, complete game for the Red Wolves. Not a nice, complete game for Southern Miss. And what is funny is that Will Hall and Butch Jones came into their teams there at the very same time. And the trajectory for Southern Miss just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And maybe for the good of everybody, including Will Hall, it was time to part ways.
Is it a game too premature to fire him, though, considering they're at 1-6, that maybe they can go on a run, get 5 straight, be 6-6, and in a bowl? I mean, seriously. I mean, do you just write the season off already, or do you keep fighting?
I'll answer that. Just the way they look, they just don't look like a team that could win any games this year. They don't have enough guys. You know what they look like? They look like old ULM teams. Undersized, not very fast, not very big, not very talented at the skill positions. I don't know what happened with the Will Hall tenure. It seems like Southern Miss has enough, gravitas to bring in good guys, and they just don't seem to have them right now. So, yeah, I think you got to get rid of them.
They lost Frank Gore Jr. was what happened to the Will Hall tenure.
Yeah, that's true. You got to have another one waiting in the wings.
But Southern Miss is a program that shouldn't, be that devastated by losing one player. I mean, especially not like a quarterback. Obviously, Frank Gore Jr. kind of did everything for them offensively, but that's a really proud, tradition-rich program.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting. Jeremy kind of hit on it, like getting the guys in there. ECU, East Carolina, made the same move on the same day, firing a coach. Still theoretically could get to a bowl game, but everything you hear is that like what they did was get their fan base energized again. Like all of a sudden they're getting donations to their collective for teams that like want to get going. And I think, more than sneaking into a bowl game at 6-6, like this move maybe jumpstart something for programs like that, where kind of have that sleeping giant fan base behind you that has been waiting a while to get back to where they were.
Let me ask you guys a bit of trivia. I looked this up because was talking to somebody who's a Memphis fan, for instance. And I said, the Red Wolves beat Southern Miss. And Southern Miss, how good are they? No one even knows who they are. Like if you ever talk to a Memphis fan, that's all you ever get. So, so I looked it up. How many weeks total do you believe that Southern Miss has spent in the AP Top 25? What would you say?
Overall?
Yeah, overall in their history. How many weeks?
15.
Okay, all right. That's a good guess. How about you, Shane? What would you think?
I was going to say 25.
54 weeks, guys.
Ooh.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially for a group of 5 type team. Now, I looked and see what Memphis had, and they've been at over 80 weeks of top 25. So, I mean, they've had some good seasons too, but that's pretty good. That is a good program. That is a program that's used to winning. I can't imagine what the fans at Hattiesburg are feeling right now. I'm sure that they're even angrier than JMU fans who are looking at those 2 losses like, oh, it's the end of the world. But man, it's been bad for a long time. So yes, you've got to get rid of Will Hall.
So the game finally happened. The 2020 SunBelt Conference championship game between Louisiana Lafayette and Coastal Carolina. Ironically, I think that game was supposed to have been in Coastal Carolina at the beach on the teal field. But it was really all Cajuns. 34-24, a bunch of smack talk back and forth between the programs, between the social media accounts. But more importantly than that, the Cajuns, the first to hit the 6th threshold, they are guaranteed to be going to another bowl game this upcoming season. They're tied with ULM to lead the West. Words I never thought I'd hear said out in public. What are we thinking? Do we think that Ben Woolridge is the legit guy and he's really showcasing that he is back, he's healthy, and that this Cajuns team is legit?
Well, look at these numbers, and you tell me. 373 yards and 3 touchdowns from Ben Woolridge, the 70-year-old quarterback for the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Yeah, I would say that they found their quarterback, that he's back, and he's doing pretty well. And to go to Coastal Carolina, where, to be fair, I did say, I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit, Shane. I said that Coastal Carolina has a history of not rebounding well after adversity. They get thumped by JMU. They have an opportunity to get well against a good team, Louisiana, at home, and they just don't do it. What did you think about that, Shade?
A little surprised. Not that Louisiana won, but yeah, like you said, that Coastal's just kind of they didn't bounce back at all. Like, really. I mean, the score maybe even looks closer than it was. I mean, there was never a time like following that game that I thought Coastal was really gonna win it. And they end up firing their offensive coordinator. They still are averaging 30-some points per game, and one of the top 5 offenses in the Sun Belt. And it's been so bad the last couple of weeks that their offensive coordinator gets fired. That's quite a drop off pretty fast to get to that point.
Yeah, I thought that was strange too, because I felt like maybe it's not what's going on with the offense that's the problem. Maybe there's something more in terms of just concentration or an attitude that's going on. That's the problem. I'm not in the locker room. I have no idea. It did seem strange that they get rid of the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I hate to speculate, but the circumstances of that makes you wonder if it almost was like some sort of like argument or personality clash or something, or fight in the coach's office, because like that. That was, to me, that was pretty drastic to do after a couple of bad weeks.
Yeah, maybe sleeping with the chancellor's wife or something. Oh, let's just start a rumor. Let's get it going.
Let's not.
Something that's not a rumor.
Okay.
Marshall running back AJ Turner is the legit guy. There's a reason he's leading the Sun Belt in rushing, 177 yards, 3 touchdowns as the Herd run all over the Panthers in Huntington for the win. They're now sitting at 2-1, second place, right behind Georgia Southern. Braylon Braxton, the gunslinger there, 132 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Guys, I think Marshall's hitting their stride, and that's a little scary knowing that as we look ahead, ULM is headed to Huntington next week after this week's game at South Alabama. It might be a big clash.
It only gets harder for the Warhawks, and maybe we can talk about that during second and short. Oh, the gong, an early gong. But yeah, gong. Marshall's one. What happens to every man. But the Marshall's one of those teams where at the beginning of the season there were a lot of people saying, "Well, Marshall is look." I think our good friend Phil Steele said that it was Marshall that was going to make a real true run for the Sun Belt East, and he based it off the strength of their offensive line. And then you look at this AJ Turner; he gets 177 yards on Georgia State, 3 touchdowns. You got to think a lot has to do with that offensive line. So yeah, Marshall kind of quietly out there in Huntington, just building up wins. They're 4-3. It's not massive, but they're 2-1 in the Sun Belt. Get behind Georgia Southern. They could be in a sweet spot to swoop in. In the meantime, Georgia State, those guys, they just kind of ran out of steam, gave up 11 right away, which was weird to look at. But it seems like they have a quarterback in Zach Gibson now. I wouldn't be surprised if they get another win on the season.
Yeah, Marshall fans were definitely clamoring, saying give it AJ Turner the ball, and they did. And we saw what happened. I'm still like a little – my skepticism with Marshall is still the old adage, like if you have two quarterbacks, do you really even have one? And like it's kind of weird how they're going back and forth between those two guys. And Stone Earl doesn't even play, I don't think, this week, did he? So like I like – what they've done, but I'm still just a little bit skeptical like they're going to be able to keep doing what they've done offensively. We'll see, though.
Yeah, when you do that to quarterbacks, I know Arkansas State had a situation a few years ago where they had two quarterbacks that they played like equally. They played them in a way where every time the one guy would get a series, then the next guy would get a series, and then the first guy would get the series. It was just back and forth. And they never deviated from the game plan, which is very frustrating. They would never go with the hot hand. Here's my advice to Coach Huff. Pick a guy and run with him. I don't care which one it is. But what you're saying to your team is, we don't trust either guy, is what you're doing. So I
don't know if it's that or you have kind of the multitude of quarterbacks for the different situations. I mean, it's no different than a running back, right? You want the bigger, thick guy if you got to get that second and short in order to dive in for a touchdown or get that first down, as opposed to kind of being the lean, fast machine when you want to have the big burst or the big run.
Can you think of any SunBelt champion that became champion under that system? I'm sure there is. I just can't think of one.
I don't know. It's just the weird thing to me was that it's not even that like maybe going back or using guys situationally. Like the weird thing to me was like it looked like Braxton had won the job.
Yeah.
Like he came in, got his chance. It looked like he'd won the job. And then the next week he didn't. Like the next week they're back to Stone Earl. And it wasn't necessarily the offense's problem that they lost that weird comeback game at Georgia Southern. And then the next week, like no Stone Earl anywhere to be seen. Like it's just really weird to me to go back and forth like that, like so drastically with one guy starting and the next guy then kind of disappearing. It's really weird to me.
Is it Stone Earl or Stone Early?
Is it early?
I don't know. You've said it both ways.
It's spelled like the Americana singer Steve Earle, so I assumed it was pronounced.
Okay. Wow. You did a little research. I like that.
I didn't do any research. I just happened to like that music.
Okay. Yeah. You just dug into your reservoir of
He did a concept album about West Virginia coal mining too, so I figured there's some sort of connection there.
Oh, okay.
What else do we have, guys? What else is happening around the SunBelt Conference?
Yeah, I feel like, guys, is it just me or is women's soccer winding down?
It does end a little bit earlier in some of the fall sports. They get into their tournament pretty quickly.
Yeah, because it's the last home game of the season for Arkansas State. It's senior day for Arkansas State, which I was a little surprised. I'm like, what? I thought this just got started, but I guess that's how that works.
It's all a point system with James Madison leading the way, 19 points. Texas State, Old Dominion, 14, 13 for South Alabama, 12 for App, 10 Coastal Carolina, 9 Georgia Southern, 8 for ULM, Louisiana Lafayette, Southern Miss, Georgia State, all with 7, 6 for Marshall, 3 for Arkansas State, 1 point for Troy.
Ouch. Arkansas State has like 3 ties out of their last 4 games. Which that's just not fun soccer. You kind of, it's not satisfying to see a tie. You want to see a win.
Well, you
especially a 0-0 tie.
You should follow the JMU men. They are 7-1-5.
Oh God!
Jeez.
You gotta work out the tiebreaker. You gotta do the penalty, the kicks, or whatever that is. I don't know why college.
They did away with it a couple of years ago. That's
I
why
know, and I don't know why. What's the point? I guess the point was to have the points.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, my Red Wolves took 1 out of 2 against Texas State the other day, which was a big deal for for volleyball, not soccer anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. My Red Wolves finally competing again in volleyball, so that's good.
We know what you're really excited about, though. So let's
Bowling.
2 weeks away from basketball.
Oh, okay. Because I thought you were going to reference coming in the Invitational.
About that.
I am excited about basketball. Arkansas State plays their first exhibition, but you know what we were talking about while we were waiting on your slow ass, Melon, was the prospect, was this idea, this very real thing of secret scrimmages.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with secret scrimmages?
I'm familiar that they exist, but
Shane's Adam. Don't let him fool you. He's Adam.
no, I asked and I was not allowed.
You were denied entry into the secret scrimmage. A-State has a secret scrimmage with Murray State, and I thought that was kind of funny. And then we're
The Racers.
Yeah, like, well, how do you get Murray State to come all the way to Jonesboro? And Tibbs was like they probably had a couple other secret scrimmages with some other programs.
Did they take the last train to Clarksville?
Why do we always digress so quickly?
I don't know. So here's the thing. Here's what I weigh down to you, Tibbs. I wish we had a live audience and we can sort of get their vote. Do we do second and short in this episode, or do we do a separate second and short episode?
We always got to do separate, man.
Yeah.
You think it's separate? All right. What about you, Shane? What do you think? Separate?
I think separate. Get
All
that
right.
advertising money.
All right. Okay. All right. So what else we got? I guess we got plugs, promos, and practical jokes, Tibbs.
Exactly. So I will kick it off
Thank God.
with something on the X
Ooh.
that I was not a fan of hearing.
Uh-oh.
It was rather insulting to myself and Shane, the legitimate members of the media, where somebody said that we were not a real show. We were just a bunch of random fans, all because we would not follow somebody's dictatorial statement that we must refer to a school by what they claim is their rightful name.
Huh.
On that note,
Okay.
not only are there state laws that give precedent to this, but there's also a style guide signed off by Carl Benson,
Here we go.
as well as Keith Gill,
Uh-huh.
presidents, chancellors, athletic directors, sports information directors, and everybody in between. There's a school that wants to go by a state name,
Sure.
but until the northern school is allowed to go by their initials,
Uh-huh.
there's no such school that is named after a state.
Huh.
So I leave you with that cryptic message to say, it doesn't matter what it's called because it's wrong on both sides. And so until it's right, be lucky that we refer to you at all.
And another thing, though, you didn't quite address this. We are technically journalists. I mean, we cover the SunBelt. We receive press credentials. I mean, I know we're not classically trained in the way Shane Metlin is trained. Shane is absolutely a journalist. You can't question his credentials at all.
I've only been doing this for like 26 years. It's no big deal.
26 years. Sure.
I'm just a member of the FWAA, the All-American Committee, the representative for the Sun Belt. I cast my ballot today for the Lombardi Award. No, Shane, I don't have a Heisman vote, but I vote in everything else.
Or a Pulitzer like Shane has.
Yeah, that is correct.
If anybody's being a poser on this show, it's me. I just have a big mouth. And the mouth got so big that they had to rein me in with a press credential. But yeah. Hey, you besmirch me all you want, random Louisiana fan. I call you Louisiana, by the way. I've been nice about that.
I do too.
There,
you can tell they can. From now on, they should know who makes the graphics. It's very obvious.
I think when you look at the Twitter account too, you know when I do it, and you know when Tibbs does it. There's just a different style. You know, when Tibbs writes a tweet, there's going to be a lot of M dashes. That's how you know it's Tibbs. Tibbs loves the dashes. I'm not.
It's probably also misspelled.
Mine will probably be misspelled. And there's a good chance that when I write a tweet for FunBelt Podcast, it might have a link to a HalRazor.com story. There might be a chance that I'm just double dipping into the social medias for my own benefit. Shane, do you even have authorization?
Again, when I got a new phone like about a year and a half ago, I'm no longer logged into the. We gotta lend our Twitter account some journalistic credibility here, Tibbs, and remind Shane what the password is.
Just know that the DMs sometimes get a little crazy.
Yeah, so my parting shot is sort of on that line there, Tibbs. From the Arkansas State perspective, which I know that you've been hip deep in that mud for a long time, and I respect it, man. I do, man. I've got my own axes to grind in Arkansas that probably don't make sense to anybody else, but to people in Arkansas. But when the Cajuns, let's say I call them that, when the Cajuns wanted to say we're Louisiana, I did not give a shit. I was like, fine, that's there's no skin off my back. But let me tell you something, Tibbs. There are a lot of Arkansas State fans who get just as angry as you do on that topic. It just burns them to call them that. They will say, Jeremy, it's UL Lafayette, it's ULL, or it's ooh la la, which I find to be childish. I find that to be the most childish thing in the world, but they love it in Arkansas. They love it in Arkansas State. They love calling the Cajuns ooh la la. I don't know why. I don't get it. But as for me, I just go ahead and write down Louisiana because that's what they want to be. You know, we have a statewide paper that continues to call Arkansas State instead of A State. They call them ASU. They won't listen to us. It makes me mad. I think maybe I'm in this kind of have the same kind of, beef that the Cajuns have. But anyway, that's my part of the job.
Shane, would you like to join the name game?
Yes, since we're on this topic.
Yeah, come on.
I'll go with it. Well, for one thing, Ulala might be childish, but I don't know why they went away from it. That's awesome. I say Louisiana because that's what they want, and I don't care. Like, I don't have a dog in the fight like Tibbs. I think I do probably use Cajuns more than I use.
That's
Louisiana.
the safe bet.
Like, you were Ulala and completely unique. Everybody talked about it. Why go away from that? That's just marketing 101 to me. But I digress. There are other ones in the conference that I didn't even realize until I was looking at some game notes or something that App State doesn't want to be called Appalachian State, which I think our paper still does on first.
They don't?
They want to be App State. That's their branding now.
Through and through.
Yeah. I think Appalachian State first reference, you kind of got to do it. But I do call them App State in conversation, but
yeah, I always thought that they would view that in the same way we view Ark State, which we can't stand. So I
haven't asked anybody over there, but I suspect maybe this goes back to kind of wanting to make people forget about their viral video from what, that's been 15 years now, probably. But
hot.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something too. I got into some I'm not in trouble, but I posted a story about the upcoming A-State South Alabama game onto a message board for South Alabama. And in the story, it briefly referred to them as South Bama, which I say all the time as a way of truncating the name. I'm not really trying to make a statement at all. Those guys hate that. They absolutely despise being called South Alabama. So I very earnestly and actually got into a civil conversation with. I said, "Well, what's acceptable?" They like South Al. They're fine with that, which I always thought was worse than South Bama. But that's what they want. So if you want to be respectful, that's what you got to do.
We can also love war on here to have a discussion about who's GSU and who's not.
Oh my God. We should have Ben. We could have Ben come over and discuss that, Tibbs.
Yeah, we could. Speaking of South Alabama, though, I still absolutely love their cheer of USA, USA, South in your mouth.
Do they do that still?
I don't know if they still do. I remember hearing that, though, at a game, and I was like, that is absolutely classic.
South in your mouth. Yum. All right.
What else do you have to add, Shane? Since you're the real journalist.
I think it's time to wrap it up.